I'm Abby, I have a lot of records, and this is Vinyl Monday. So welcome back, or welcome if this is your first time here. Vinyl Monday is the who, what, when, where, why, and how do I feel about classic albums in my collection. If TV show length episodes aren't your thing, don't worry. I also do Vinyl Monday in 60 seconds here on my channel, over on my Instagram, as well as TikTok. It's May, and if you've been around here long, you will know what that means. Modern Classics Month is upon us. For the next couple Fridays, I'll be posting about personally or culturally significant albums in my collection from the past 25 years. Continuing the spirit of the last Vinyl Monday, the band's music from Big Pink, my first Modern Classics pick was the New Basement Tapes and their album Lost on the River. So keep your eye out for 2 videos a week. We also have a new Dolls pod out, devoted to actress, activist, fashion icon. It's not every day you have a handbag named after you. And one of my friend Emma's greatest muses, Jane Birkin. I saw your request for an episode about her back when this podcast began. We've finally made it so. The Dolls Pod is available wherever you stream your podcasts, but as always, Apple and Spotify are linked in the description. Back to your regularly scheduled programming. This week's album is The Moody Blues, Days of Future Past. Congrats to those who guessed this one. Remember, if you want to play along, all you gotta do is check out my post tab. That's where I post hints to what the next album is gonna be. It's the post tab, wouldn't you know it. I make announcements, I host polls, you can find all of that on my channel, and if you so choose, you can always read the written version of my reviews on my website, linked in the description, because everything is there. I don't know, I had to get that New Basement Tapes episode finished, and then it thunderstormed, and then I was cramping, so I was awake until 3, and then at 7, the oil truck came! Buddy hates trucks. So I am running off 4 hours of sleep. Let's get to the episode, and let's take this plastic off. So my copy of Days of Future Past is a repress, but just barely. This is one of my most prized pieces in my collection, along with my original copy of Layla and my original UK mono Rubber Soul. This is a UK stereo copy from 1968. What I have here is a second pressing. The originals have the DSS logo on the labels in brown, I think, instead of red like mine are. Originals are extremely rare, as this press was issued like 2 months after release and quickly overtook the original. Now let's talk about this cover art. The Days of Future Past cover is a painting by David Anstey. Look closely and you'll find all sorts of details relating to the cycle of time. Hourglasses, moon phases, the times of day on the clock, human figures, hands outstretched, and if you look really closely, a knight. There's also a flying saucer for some reason. All of it forms a face, extended across day and night. According to frontman Justin Hayward, David was, quote, just thrown this idea, and we met him in a pub and told him about our songs, and he knocked that out. It was all very quick and cheap. Later, quote, I think after that, we realized the potential of sleeves, because a lot of other bands were doing it as well. What's always struck me as odd about the Days of Future Past cover is the orientation of the text, especially this black border right here, because it looks like an album of classical music. The liner notes on the back, yes, very 60s, would allude to this as well. We'll get more into this later. On Days of Future Past, we have the classic era lineup of the Moody Blues. That's Justin Hayward on lead vocals and guitar, Mike Pinder on mellotron, gong, co-lead vocals on Dawn is a Feeling, lead vocals on Sunset, and spoken word on The Day Begins and The Night's Late Lament, John Lodge on bass, lead vocals on Peak Hour and Time to Get Away, Graham Edge on drums, or Graham Edge, and Ray Thomas on flute, lead vocals on Another Morning and Twilight Time. Our special guests are a whole-ass orchestra, the London Festival Orchestra under the direction of Peter Knight. Days of Future Past was produced by Tony Clark with arrangements by Peter Knight. Roll transition.
known as a feeling, a beautiful ceiling.
Best summarized by Justin to author Will Romano, quote, "I wish I could say there was some master plan about the Moody's, but it was sort of a series of blundering coincidence and accidents that kept us going, really, through the first 10 years of the band." It's 1966, and the Moody Blues, or the Moodies as I will be referring to them for the rest of this episode, are in their flop era. Okay. We gotta go back a little bit. The Moody Blues started as a blues band, hence the name Moody Blues. But as Graham said, quote, "We suddenly started to feel a little phony because we'd never seen a field of cotton, let alone picked cotton out of one. We weren't quite sure what a smokestack was. You know, smokestack lightning." Basically, the Moodies were fucking posers. They switched to the doo-wop stuff, Go Now and the like. For over a year, the Moodies tried and failed to follow up Go Now. British pop music changed radically from 66 onwards. Psych was king, and anyone hanging on to the old sounds was sure to be left in the dust. We see this with the Zombies, and we see it again with the Moodies. To add insult to injury, their manager absconded with all the money they made off Go Now. If there was some kind of Vinyl Monday bingo sheet, a manager stealing all the band's money should probably be the free space. 1966 is a weird limbo period for the Moodies. Not only are they flops, they're managerless and they're broke. Another identity crisis follows, causing original singer Denny Lane, rest in peace, and original bassist Clint Warwick to leave the band. Another guy joins, then quits, leaving space for John Lodge to join. And thanks to the Animals putting out an ad in the paper for a new guitarist, the Moodies' fate changed forever. Eric Burden passed him up, but Mike gave 19-year-old Justin Hayward a call back.
Talk about putting in your thumb and pulling out a plum, eh? Justin Hayward from an ad in a paper.
Enter the Moody Blues Mark II, or the real Moody Blues, as Graham calls them. It takes a while for the Moody Twos to get off the ground. No one's coming to their shows. Justin is so broke he had to move back in with his parents. One night after a gig, Justin was up late writing, though he was sat on the bed made up with a set of satin sheets he got from another girl. He couldn't shake the feeling of missing his ex. I think you know what color the sheets were. Justin brings Nights in White Satin to the table in early 67. This was a stark change in direction from the band's previous LP, inspired in part by the band's time in France and Belgium. Justin said, quote, "We had to develop a style of our own, and that was the only way that we were gonna survive. We had no money anyways, so what did we have to lose?" It was first recorded live for the BBC Saturday Club. Engineer Adrian Day said, quote, "We had no idea it," meaning the song, "was so good until then. We had gone out on a limb because it wasn't what was happening on the market at the time. A long, slow record." An early influence on Days of Future Past was Cosmic Sounds, an album by a studio band called the Zodiac.
The tide turns twice, then turns again.
Cold-hearted orb that rules the night, removes the colors from us.
Pretty clear cash grab by Elektra, who wanted to cash in on the astrology craze of the late 60s. Wrecking Crew members Hal Blaine and newly inducted Rock and Roll Hall of Famer Carol Kay are on it. It's about time she got in. Also on Cosmic Sounds is an extremely early appearance of the Moog synthesizer. This was written by Mort Garrison after all. Of course there's going to be a Moog here. Justin said, quote, "Although we had the idea of writing songs representing part of the day before the release of the Zodiac, I would still say that this record influenced the way we recorded Days. Because he worked for the company who made the Mellotron, Mike got a hold of one for cheap. He had intimate knowledge of how it worked, so he was able to take the whole thing apart to replace, quote, less useful sounds with strings. Mike adding Mellotron was what sold the guys on Nights in White Satin. John said, quote, "None of us had got the full picture of Nights until then. When we went into the control room and listened to it, it was mesmerizing. It was a time when we all felt we were floating on air." With that, Days of Future Past was born. Obviously, the Beatles with Sgt. Pepper's were an influence. The guys were friends with Paul McCartney. But aside from Tuesday Afternoon and Lunch Break, there's very little psychedelic about Days of Future Past. Fusing rock and roll and an orchestra wasn't the Moody's idea. It was Deram's parent company, Decca's. They were looking for a way to promote these newfangled things called stereo systems. That's right. Days of Future Past was nothing more than an equipment demonstration album. This full-page ad in Record Mirror is proof. They wrote and recorded 4 songs at Olympic Studios. Deram gave them a contract, and it's a damn good thing they did, because the Moody's contract with Decca was about to expire, and they still owed the label £5,000, which is about £78,500 today. Sounds way worse when you say it like that. Decca basically said, look, you guys are broke. You owe us a ton of money. Ultimately, we'll have the final say creatively. This deal is 100% on our terms since you have absolutely no negotiating power. But if you record this thing for us, we'll forgive your debts. It was a deal. Decca's head of special products, Michael Dacre Barclay, manufactured the Red Wave Night thing to give himself royalties. But if the Moody's wanted to at least try for another hit, this was really their only shot. Justin said, "We were just lucky to be able to have an opportunity to record." As for the project the Moody's were assigned, Decca made a truly bizarre request, a rock and roll version of Antonin Dvorak's New World Symphony. Coincidentally, the Moody's were spinning Holst's Planet Suite. Days of Future Past, not the New World Symphony, was recorded at Decca Studios under the guidance of a few allies, producer Tony Clark and Decca's A&R guy Hugh Mendel. Hugh hooked the guys up with Peter Knight. He struggled to see the vision, but he really didn't need much convincing. He'd much rather write new stuff than rehash Dvorak. Peter lobbied for the guys to have 24-hour access to the studio, allowing for the guys to stage a mutiny and record Days of Future Past under Decca's nose. That's right, this is a hostile takeover! Now, author Mark Cushman presents an account that challenges the covert operation narrative, but let's be real here. If all 5 members of the Moody's asserted this was the case, and evidence shows Tony, Hugh, Peter, and Michael Dacre Barclay were all involved, who am I to tell them they're wrong? The band recorded Days of Future Past as quickly and cheaply as they possibly could. They had all of 5 days to slam this thing out, which explains how the bell tree getting knocked over made it into Late Lament. As the story goes, a cat was the culprit. I'm more inclined to believe it was one of the guys. The London Festival Orchestra recorded all their parts in one go on November 3rd of 1967. The whole album was delayed so they could do it. The track listing of Days of Future Past goes as follows. Opening up side 1, we have The Day Begins, including the Morning Glory poem. Then Dawn, aka Dawn is a Feeling. Next, The Morning, aka Another Morning. And side 1 closes with Lunch Break with Peak Hour. Opening up side 2, we have The Afternoon, including Forever Afternoon, Tuesday, and Time to Get Away. That's right, Tuesday Afternoon isn't actually called Tuesday Afternoon. For reasons unbeknownst to us, Tony insisted upon changing the name to Forever Afternoon Tuesday? Justin acquiesced for the album, then immediately changed it back for the single. Next is Evening, including The Sunset and Twilight Time, and the album closes with The Night, including Nights in White Satin and Late Lament. Days of Future Past was released in November of 1967, and once Decca realized that, hey, people are actually listening to this thing, only then did they start promoting it, and hiked up the price from demonstration album to a proper release. But thanks to the Red Wave Night thing, the Moody's were not raking in the dough from this. Quote, "To this day, anyone who is involved in that album walks around shaking his fists in the air. On top of that, back when he was 18, poor, sweet, stupid Justin signed away the rights on all of his writing until the age of 26. To give you some perspective, I will be 26 in a month. Imagine if I had signed away the rights on all of my writing from 18 when I started writing about music to now. I wouldn't have the rights to any of the reviews I wrote in college, the original Vinyl Monday on Instagram between when I graduated and when I started YouTube, or anything on this channel." Days of Future Past was up against a lot, but it still received warm reception from critics, even amidst one of the most active years in pop music to date. It is wild to see pages like this front cover of Disc from December 1967. Days of Future Past is promoted alongside the Beatles' Hello Goodbye, Donovan's There Is a Mountain, the Monkees with Daydream Believer, and one of my favorite singles of the whole year, Love Is All Around by the Trogs. Or this page from the NME with features of Magical Mystery Tour and Axis alongside a Days of Future Past review. Despite such famous fans as the Beatles singing its praises, Days of Future Past did just good commercially. It peaked at number 27 in the UK. Nights in White Satin, released in November as the promo single, missed out on the top 20 there, but fared better elsewhere. Yeah, everything about Days of Future Past was difficult to market. It's not pop, it's not rock and roll, it's definitely not classical, and the band isn't pictured on the cover. For all of these reasons, Days of Future Past completely failed to make an impact in the States. Nights in White Satin bubbled just under the Billboard Hot 100 singles chart. But then something interesting happened. 5 years later, the Moodies were gearing up to release a new single, I'm Just a Singer in a Rock and Roll Band, off Seventh Sojourn. But at the last minute, they got a call from the US branch of Decca saying, "Wait a minute, you got a local hit on your hands. Hold off on this single so we can see what the other one does." As the story goes, an FM radio DJ in Seattle, Washington played the full Nights in White Satin so he'd have time to sneak out for a bong rip. Ray said, quote, "The second time he did it, the switchboard lit up like a Christmas tree." In response to Nights in White Satin randomly popping off in the States, Days of Future Past was re-released. This time, it peaked at number 3 on the Billboard chart. AM radio stations still weren't down with playing the whole Nights in White Satin, but the re-release single got a whole extra minute of runtime. And that extra minute made all the difference. Where it only peaked at number 103 before, Nights in White Satin now peaked at number 2. Call it the Layla effect. Nights in White Satin has had crazy staying power in pop culture. A whole ride was themed around it at the short-lived Hard Rock theme park. Defunctland Hard Rock theme park episode when. It's appeared in multiple film soundtracks, famously Martin Scorsese's Casino. I fucking knew Scorsese used it. And semi-recently, it was in an ad for Bleu de Chanel. Get it? Blue. The Moody Blues. I bet that marketing team felt real clever. Starring everybody's favorite chaotic Zoomer actor, Timothée Chalamet. As for the cultural impact of Days of Future Past as a whole, I mean, hello? Where do you think my original Discogs username came from? As for the girl who gave Justin those white satin sheets, they've been happily married for 54 years. Oh. Today, the Moodies are tentatively considered founding fathers of prog rock. Justin, however, sees it just as a happy accident. Quote, "I suppose people in life always look for watershed moments, and I suppose the watershed for the Moody Blues was that we became part of the progressive rock avalanche, which built up through 1968 and exploded in 69 with the one, the only, prog or not, Days of Future Past is absolutely an early concept album, though. So, what do I think of Days of Future Past? First things first, let's play a game of Is It Prog? Days of Future Past is not prog. That felt quite anticlimactic, but it definitely is progressive. When asked how to describe Days of Future Past to someone unfamiliar with it, Graham said, quote, classical. In the music term, not classic meaning very old rock. Performed by a bunch of guys who were too stupid to know that we weren't supposed to be able to do it. I hear Dvorak, I hear Holst, I feel like touches of Stravinsky and touches of Gershwin. If you ask me, Days of Future Past is what I call Fantasia rock. Before I confirm that this was intended to be a concept album, the 60s are full of concept albums that really aren't, I noticed the cyclical nature of Days of Future Past. It begins and ends with Mike hitting the gong. We don't hear the orchestra drop in for 32 whole seconds. We have to wait for a long fade in on the gong, making it sound like it's been reversed. It starts off small, then grows in intensity, like the first rays of sunshine before the sun spills over the horizon. You'll surely be dazzled by the sheer amount of everything going on: horns, bells, harp, timpani, and obviously the strings. Peter took a George Martin-esque approach to handling the strings for a rock album, but listen to how the clarinets come in. It's a blink and you'll miss it moment. They quiver like leaves. We've had a few sunrise moments on past albums on Vinyl Monday. A Love Supreme, Eat a Peach. This one is the grandest of all. The words cinematic and theatrical will surely be overused in this review. Allow me to present some more. Energized, hopeful, romantic, whimsical. The Day Begins is all the makings of a classic overture. The first composition in an orchestra work, film, or musical where all the themes are played by the orchestra. This arrangement teases out the Dawn is a Feeling and Nights in White Satin sections just as a Hollywood movie overture would. You draw out the themes of the big songs so the audience gets excited. Bells and an anticipatory chord played by the strings cue us into Days of Future Past's first Graham-written, Mike-read spoken word pieces, Morning Glory. It first describes the night. Cold-hearted orb being the full moon, pinprick holes in a colorless sky being stars in a night sky. A subtle, quiet blend of instruments is used to portray night. Oboe or bass clarinet, damn you Trout Mask replica for ruining my perception of that instrument forever. Harps, bells, chimes. Brave Helios, wake up your steeds, bring the warmth the countryside needs. References Greek mythology. Helios and his horses would drive a chariot carrying the sun across the sky. Notice the ascending string swells as our narrator summons the mighty light of 1,000 suns. A playful woodwind piece called Dawn pushes the key of Morning Glory into that of Dawn is a Feeling. Though we've heard their themes before in the overture, the Moodies themselves have finally made their first appearance with their famous mellotron. Having this instrument is Days of Future Past's secret weapon. An instrument meant to sound like strings helps the Moodies integrate with actual strings. The Moodies have not jumped the gun with this. They took careful consideration to write a song about dawn, just a split second before the morning begins. Dawn is quiet. The sky is pale. Dawn is a Feeling is quiet, even sounding mournful with Justin's romantic, sweet vocals. The subtle optimism in the lyrics is powerful. Do you understand that all over this land there's a feeling? In minds far and near, things are becoming clear with a meaning. That late 60s Age of Aquarius mindset. Everyone's really waking up to the powers that be, man! The overall message of Dawn is a Feeling is to live in the moment and not let things that you can't change worry you. It's true, life flies faster than eyes could ever see. You're here today, no future fears. This day will last 1,000 years. I love the ambiguity of leaving this phrase open, if you wanted to. The song transmutes into another gorgeous orchestral section with the strings and clarinet carrying the Dawn is a Feeling theme out just a little longer. Flutes, clearly a very important instrument to the Moodies, start another morning. This is one of the lesser successful blends from Peter's arrangements. It just kind of crossfades into Graham's drums. The two parts are mismatched. I know the orchestra was crafted to sound like the Moodies, but the Moodies do an awfully good job job at sounding like an orchestra here. Ray's flute takes center stage. The tambourine, happy marching snare, and mellotron sound joyous like some pastoral village festival. Another Morning is a little cutesy for me, definitely an artifact of the mid-century medieval craze as far as sound goes. Don't get me wrong, I love a good mid-century medieval moment, but it has to come from the right person. Another Morning's lyrics describe an active morning in town, specifically a child's. Balloons flying, children sighing, what a day to go kite flying, boys going fishing, girls wearing cotton dresses and playing with dolls. And I think the cowboys fighting a duel is meant to be boys playing cowboys and Indians. The moral of the song is buried in the lyrics. Watch children playing, they seem so wise. Children aren't stupid. They're more open, expressive, and insightful than adults give them credit for. Lunch Break has Gershwin written all over it. Under Peter's direction, the orchestra becomes a city during the week. The kiddies stay in town with their nannies, but the parents have gone to work for the day. The bell trills, string accents, and dialogue between woodwinds and flutes invoke images of bustling streets filled with commuters. The brass even sounds like car horns, and of course, Peter sneaks in themes from past songs like Dawn is a Feeling. This fades out before peak hour, which honestly sounds like a Who cast-off. All that's missing is Mooney, with his headphones duct taped to his head. This is very 60s British pop music, very of its time. The harmony, insistent drums, groovy bass line and keys, poppy riff. I don't know how well this would have fared in the 70s or in America at all, but this could have fared well as a single in Britain. I see it all through my window, it seems, never failing like millions of these leaves. I know for a fact Genius is wrong. There is no way in hell it is bees. Whatever it is, if Days of Future Past was getting too saccharine for you, Peak Hour breaks that up. It's a statement against the 9-to-5 grind, the straight life. Minds are subject to what should be done, problem solved, time cannot be won. Just take every day as it comes, man. I imagine the narrator standing outside, looking in on dozens of cubicles. It makes me want to run and tell them they've got time. Take a step back, look out and look in. I've got time. Tell me the bridge doesn't sound like Dr. Robert. The bridge is followed by a rave up before spilling into Justin's guitar solo with a surf rock tone, then a mellotron solo that plays with some almost Eastern elements. I don't know if the Moody's looked at the other runtime of their songs and specifically picked Peak Hour to be the side one closer, but it certainly makes good use of its closing spot. It slows, then crescendos into a proper... I know Tuesday Afternoon was the other radio hit of Days of Future Past. Please don't be mad at me. I've never been a fan of it. I like it much better when it saunters into the middle section. Justin, the band, and the mellotron lope through the clearing. A little stoned. Tuesday Afternoon, I'm just beginning to see, now I'm on my way. It doesn't matter to me, chasing the clouds away. The youthful propensity to waste the days away without a care, and the juvenile ideal that there's some wisdom to be found in doing that. Our young protagonist hears a call to adventure. Something calls to me, the trees are drawing me near. I've got to find out why. Those gentle voices I hear explain it all with a sigh. It's blissful, like someone sleeping the afternoon away in the sun. Maybe one of the best orchestral transitions on Days of Future Past is from Tuesday to Evening Has Come to Pass. Though it was thoughtfully crafted, it makes us feel like our precious day has been ripped away, by wasting it away or working it away, depending on your age. The cold piano chords and somber vocals mimic that first chilly breeze you get in the afternoon. Golden hour is coming to a close, evening has come to pass. Written and sang by bassist John Lodge, Come to Pass seems to lament wasting your life away at work. Toiling has brought too many tears, turn round all those past years, ruminating on all the quality time you lost with your loved ones, and warning us all to look at the bigger picture and make the most of our lives. Live, all you people. You can see where you're at. This is an underrated moment on Days of Future Past. Beautiful mellotron playing by Mike, wonderful flourishes by Justin on acoustic guitar, and great harmonies on Evening, Time to Get Away. The Moody's haven't got much of a chance to be a harmony harmonies band on this record yet. Then comes evening. The beginning continues that last section of Come to Pass, which moves into sunset. Thankfully, we have no white guys doing dodgy Middle Eastern accents, but we're absolutely hearing those exotic sounds. The use of percussion is super fun. This is unlike anything else on Days of Future Past. With psychedelic effects on the vocals and one of the most effective blends of band and orchestra. I say one of the most because we all know what's coming. The mellotron plays fake strings over, I believe, real strings. The flute is soft and waxy like a lily petal. Peter brings a sense of urgency back for Twilight Time, and oh hey, we're suddenly a 60s R&B band again. Wild switch up. Builds anticipation for what you know is coming, Mike driving away on piano. The harmony on See What Tomorrow Brings is absolutely haunting and almost trippy. The orchestra extends the Twilight melody, strings whistle away like cool night air, then that iconic waltz time. Nights in White Satin, never reaching the end. Letters I've written, never meaning to send. Beauty I've always missed with these eyes before. Just what the truth is, I can't say anymore. My mind is blown when I remember that Justin was just 19 years old when he wrote Nights in White Satin. Then I think of something Jackson Browne said about These Days. He wrote that when he was a teenager. I'm paraphrasing this from a documentary I haven't watched in quite some time, so forgive me if I'm not quite there, but he said something along the lines of, kids have feelings too. Gazing at people, some hand in hand, just what I'm going through, they can't understand. You have a few breakups in your teens, but 19 and 20 is your first true heartbreak. Because that's your first real adult relationship. I can attest to this. The worst breakup I've ever been through was a week after my 20th birthday. So much of Days of Future Past is about youth versus adulthood. When you're in that transitional period, all the drama feels so real. This is the best blend of orchestra and band. It's gotta be one of the most iconic string parts in all of rock and roll history. The 1968 version, I think, fades out through Ray's very cool, very 60s flute solo. I remember the first time I heard that original third verse and I was shocked. That crescendo through the last chorus, if you can call it that, is show-stopping. It just crashes through your window. Justin soars over this song, grand, hopeless professions of I love you, yes, I love you, oh, how I love you, that sound like a cry out into the cold night. Our day closes with an almost voyeuristic look into the city night, like
Breathe
walking
deep,
by and seeing
gathering
many lives
deep.
through the windows. Watch lights fade from every room, people sitting on the ends of their beds, unable to sleep like Justin was. Impassioned lovers wrestle as one, the lonely man cries for love and has none. Graham's lament poem ends with the same stanza that Morning Glory begins. Cold-hearted orb that rules the night, remove the colors from our sight. Red is gray and yellow white, but we decide what is right and which is an illusion. All of these little lives carry on, one final gasp of air from the orchestra before a spectacular crash, like the moon rising high in the sky. And then, the gong. A perfect circle. You have to remember that there wasn't anything like Days of Future Past out at this time. Pet Sounds has a lot more pop. The subsequent Sgt. Pepper's was more psychedelic and beatly. Love's Forever Changes is more eclectic and flavored by Southern California. The only other album I can think of that uses Mellotron as well as this is Odyssey and Oracle, and that was a whole year out. Where the Pretty Things invented the rock opera in '68 and honest to goodness prog rock outfits opened the floodgates in '69, the Moody's established a lot of principles that prog would operate by in the decade to follow. It pioneered the rock suite, which prog took and ran with. In a few short years, you have songs that take up whole sides of LPs, or very close to. Echoes, Starless, 2112 later down the line. I am so mad that I have to wait so long to make this episode. Insert topographic oceans here. Thick as a brick. Dark Side of the fucking moon! This was an idea only classical music had employed before. Essential prog DNA. Traces back here. Days of Future Past was kind of a perfect storm. Just the right creative input from all of the Moody's, the support of Tony Clark and Dioram, and the one and only time Decca lent them the London Festival Orchestra with Peter Knight at the helm. Each song perfectly renders a color on the cover. The pinks of dawn, reds and oranges of morning and sunset, yellow and green in the afternoon, the blues of the evening, and all the rich indigo of nights in white satin. No other act has captured a day in the life quite the way the Moody Blues did on Days of Future Past. My personal favorites off this one are Dawn is a Feeling, Peak Hour, Sunset, and Nights in White Satin / Late Lament. Remember, if you want to keep up with all of my favorites from all of the Vinyl Mondays and all the Modern Classics Month episodes now, I have a Spotify playlist linked in my description. I update it every week. And that's it! That was Days of Future Past. What do you think of this album? What do you think of the Moody Blues? Leave a comment letting me know. I love hearing what you guys have to say about albums that I love. And remember, despite what some guy on the internet says, your opinion matters. If you like what I do here, you should like this video and subscribe to my channel. I post new episodes of Vinyl Monday, Mondays at 11, a new Dolls Pod every other Friday at noon, and your next Modern Classics Month, Fridays. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys on Friday. Bye!